My name is Elizabeth, and I want to welcome you to I'm Not Okay initiative that is run through Lifted Hearts Africa. It's an initiative that comes to speak openly about mental health. Today, I want us to talk about validation. When you do not have the right validation, or when your source of validation is wrong, it can drive you to mental health challenges. Do you have a reference point? For me, my reference point for my validation is the Word of God. Is what God says about me. I don't know about your source of validation. Another source that helps me to feel validated and helps me to keep on moving is the goals that I have. Do you have goals? Do you have short-term goals? Do you have long-term goals? Not forgetting that your goals should be realistic. Sometimes when you have goals that are unrealistic, it can cause mental health issues. For example, if we are trying hard to achieve a goal that we think is the right goal for us, it might drive us towards mental health challenges. Why? Because you are so passionate about your dreams. And so sometimes when you do not achieve what you want to achieve, it can always make you feel hopeless. And so sometimes let your source of validation be authentic, be the right one. Let us look at what the Word of God says in 2 Corinthians 3:15. It says, "For we are to God the pleasing aroma of Christ among those who are being saved and those who are perishing. To the one we are an aroma that brings death, to the other an aroma that brings life. And who is equal to such a task?" This is Paul saying this. He was spreading the Word of God, and not everybody liked him. To some people he was this, to other people he was the other. But what encouraged him is what he was to God. You see, you will always be different things to different people. Not everyone will like you. Not everyone will love you. And so it's important to recognize where do you get your validation from, so that you don't get it from the wrong sources. For example, don't get your validation from your failures. If you have failed, that is not the end of the road. And that is not what should mark how far you should go. You wake up, you dust yourself, and you move on with life. Another source of validation that is wrong is negative people. I have said you will always have people that will not like you, and it is perfectly okay. Even Jesus was not loved by everyone. In fact, I think he was more hated than loved. You might be surrounded by negative people, of people who are not authentic, people who are there, but their hearts are far away from you. People will not validate what is in you. And so it is important to be surrounded by people who will bring out the good that is in you, who will build up on what is in you positively, not negatively. Timothy was told to fan his gifts. How do you fan what is inside of you? By being surrounded by the right people and by not getting your validation from your failures or from negative people. Because when someone is negative towards you, they will never recognize your strengths. They will always see your failures. Another wrong source of validation can even be you. I read somewhere that, we can be our enemies, the enemies of our progress. How? When you allow negative thoughts, when you allow low self-esteem, this can cause the wrong mindset. And this is the wrong validation, because when you allow these negative thoughts, they tell you you cannot do it. But that is not the truth. And as I talked about failure, what failure does, it convinces you that you are good for nothing. But that is not the truth. God always has a purpose for you. And just because you failed, that purpose, that plan that God has for you never changes. I'll give you a story that I read somewhere about Michael Jordan, who is a well-known basketballer. If you read his story, he says that at his childhood, he was actually a short boy. So can you imagine at that point, if he listened to the wrong voices telling him you can never play basketball? We always say basketball is played by people who are tall. If he allowed those voices, can you imagine? He will never have tried to play basketball because he would have accepted that he's short. he does not measure up to the game. And if you continue to read his story, you will see how many times he tried, but every time he failed. He failed so many times. But what happened? His consistency, his waking up, dusting and trying again, made him to achieve and to be now known everywhere, and to earn from the same sport that people maybe would tell him, you are not fit for this sport. Let me tell you, do not allow your failures to limit you. Keep dreaming. No matter how many times you fall, keep dreaming. Wake up and dream again. Come up with goals, but prayerfully come up with those goals so that those goals can be guided by God. Because sometimes when you do not come up with goals prayerfully, you might also land into trouble, because you'll be trying to achieve these goals on your own. Whatever goal that you have, you'll not achieve it on your own. There's another force, that is God, that will help you achieve those goals. Another wrong place that you can get validation from, wrong validation, is when you're going through difficult seasons in your life. One thing you have to understand, a season is just an event. It does not determine the trajectory of your life. So sometimes when you are feeling discouraged, that is the time to look to surround yourself with positive people so that you do not dwell at that moment and think that you are that season. So you need to surround yourself with positive people who can speak into your life so that you can get up and continue moving on with your life. Another place that we can get the wrong validation is people who do not believe in you. And it's normal. You are entitled to their opinions. Even your family members might not believe in some of the dreams that you have. And that is perfectly fine, because the dreams that you have been put there by God just for you. So sometimes when you see people do not believe in you, and you surely know that this is what God has said, you have to keep on praying and trusting and working hard and ignore the negative voices. Not in a rude way, especially if it's a family member. Not in a rude way, but you have to know who you are. Take, for example, Joseph. Even his own father couldn't believe what he was saying. And that was perfectly fine, because the father cares about him and he doesn't want him to have dreams that are unrealistic. Sometimes God might put dreams in you that when you speak about them, they will look unrealistic. Work with people who believe in you. And if you realize someone does not believe in you, that's fine. Ignore them and move on with your life. Make sure you have the right sources of validation. The right sources of validation. I do not know what the right sources of validation are for you. As I said earlier, my sources are the Word of God. My sources are the positive people that are surrounding me. My sources are what the Word of God says about me, what my spiritual parents will speak over my life, because I trust them. It's important to have people that you trust, people that you look up to, because sometimes when you have the wrong people in your life, they might validate the wrong thing. And what happens when you have, looked forward to something for 5 years, for 10 years, for 20 years, and it is not happening? You become hopeless and you feel like you've reached the end of your road. So I want to encourage you today, those dreams that you have, keep them, keep dreaming, do not give up. It might take months, it might take years, but keep dreaming. Shalom and God bless you.